Hi, this is Damon Pistolka, host of The Faces of Business, where I talk with interesting people, sharing life and business experiences to entertain, engage, build community, and provide information to help others succeed. If you're interested in learning more about one of our guests or how we are helping business owners generate wealth and build businesses they can sell or succeed at Exit Your Way, you can find more information on our website, exityourway.com, or by contacting me directly, Damon at exityourway.com. I hope you enjoy the show. All right, everyone. Welcome once again to the Faces of Business. I'm your host, Damon Pistolka, and I'm excited today because with me today, I've got Daniel Feld of Kura Home. Daniel, thanks for being here today.
It's an honor. I'm very excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, we're going to be talking today about scaling a home services business. And Daniel, you've been doing this for a while now. I mean, you started out working for a home services business and started your own. So we always like to start the show out by letting you tell us a bit about your background and kind of the history of how you got into into what you're doing today.
Yeah, for sure. I'd like to start, I guess, kind of in the beginning. I'm one of 6 kids, and my family, actually, we were very poor. We were the family that my dad's paycheck came in on Friday, and we went to town and cashed it and picked up groceries after that. So it was the epitome of paycheck to paycheck. But my parents started breeding golden retriever puppies by accident, and that actually grew to a very successful 6-figure business today. And they've got a waiting list out the wazoo for their dogs. And wow. So I saw that, growing up in that entrepreneurship environment gave me confidence, and started almost like accidentally just through like 4-H and things like that. I grew up in a small town, but people would ask me like, "Hey, will you train my horse for me?" I was a farm kid. We had all animals, all the things. And yeah, for a couple $100, I'll do it. And so grew up kind of doing little like side things, and I would train horses and sell them to other 4-H kids. Like I'd buy them for meat price and then sell them for like $750. We make a couple $100 over the summer. But parents built their dream home when I was 16, and we did everything ourselves, basically. So I was there to pour the foundation. I put one of the last shingles on, with all those guys and everything in between. And took 3 times as long as it's supposed to, but we got the job done. Went to school, studied business marketing. After that, I worked for a really cool company. They sell 6 million chicken eggs a day, and got really involved in their systems and processes. My main job was to create SOPs. And if you think it's easy to get an egg on your table, there's a lot that goes into it. And from there, I did start working actually for my brother's company. They do window cleaning and holiday lights. And I was his general manager. Really fun experience working side by side with him. And we went from 8 crews to 16 crews in 2 years. And it was really fast, explosive growth. He's an incredible business person. I still look up to him and frequently ask him questions on the right way to do things. So, but then the idea came to start a routine maintenance company, and I told him about it. And working with his higher end customer base, you'd be talking to a customer and they'd be like, "Oh, do you know someone who can do this? Do you know if someone can do that?" What I really found is that people are just not maintaining their homes, and homes are becoming more and more complex. Machines are being built cheaper. There's more filters that need to be changed on them, and people aren't doing everything. And just with that entrepreneurship spirit and always wanting to either invent something or start my own company. At the age of 26, I wasn't married yet. I had a few side things going on. I was renting out the base of my house hacking that. And then I was boarding and training dogs on the side. And those two, as a side income, pretty passive, were bringing in about $45K a year. So took a reverse equity line against my house for $32,000. I filed the LLC for Kura Home. I gave my brother a 4-month notice, and I started Kura Home in 2016.
Yeah. that is the entrepreneurial American dream of being able to, start working for somebody, getting some side hustle going, and then turning it into a full-time business. So
100%.
Yeah, that's good. So let's back up a little bit. So 6 million eggs a day. What are some of the things when you're moving that many eggs, what are some of the things that you wouldn't think about that are really a pain in the butt for that?
Well, so I wasn't on the production side. I wasn't on the chicken side. I was on the egg side, the processing. So these eggs are coming in on this huge conveyor belt. They're 4 feet wide, and then they get separated, and then they go through this wash. And there's a ton of machines that are involved for quality control because, a bad egg comes by here and there, and it's all done automated. They're sized, they're washed, and it's all awesome. And then they got to the point where it would go in, and then by sizes, there's a huge row. There's like for all the different sizes, because the older a chicken gets, the larger the egg. So when they're young, it starts out with a small egg, and then they're sized and they're put into the cartons and they come down. And originally we had a ton of people packing these eggs, and a majority of them were typically Hispanic women who are stereotypically shorter. So if you were going to go and help to learn this job, you're bending over significantly farther than they are to pack these eggs, because they have to go in. And they were a USDA representative was always there, like checking eggs and things like that. So very high quality. When you're dealing with food that, people are going to be eating, it's got to be just right. So now they have machines that as the eggs are coming down, a robot comes and pulls that. And most of the people that now are just like watching the machines, making sure the machine is doing the job properly. But boy, if you stop and take a break, the eggs keep coming. Like the chickens lay the eggs, and you got to pack them. And it's very amazing just to stand there and watch them, that stuff and what's going on.
Well, and it's amazing when you see agricultural production like that, and understand what it takes to get that dozen eggs to the grocery store.
Right. Yeah. It is amazing. Yeah. From that conveyor belt to get that in the semi on the pallet, and that's going off to the grocery store, the distribution center. It is really incredible. The amount of the effort. I mean, it's just crazy. And that they can do it for $1.50 or whatever. It's amazing.
Yeah, that is. A weird little side fact is when we were in Mexico last year, we noticed they don't refrigerate the eggs.
Yeah. So the interesting fact about that, I also live on a hobby farm. If you this is a complete side topic, but if you don't wash the egg, it doesn't need to be refrigerated. So once you wash it, it has to be refrigerated. There's a protective layer on that egg that if you don't, and so my wife and I, we've got believe it or not, about 26 chickens running around outside, and as they lay eggs, if we don't wash them, they sit right on our countertop until we cook them.
Oh, geez, that's why. I was like, why is this happening?
Yeah. So once you wash them, though, then it has to be refrigerated for sure. And that's why all the ones from the store, they've been washed because, people, Americans don't want to find a turd on an egg. That won't go over very well.
Exactly. Well, that's interesting. That's really cool. So when you were working for your brother's company, now what were they doing there? And let's talk about that expansion, because that expansion had to kind of be painful at times.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely painful. They're cleaning windows, installing holiday lights. And, my brother started his company actually in 2007, right before the recession. The guy can outwork anyone doing anything. He's an amazing workhorse. And one thing that he did really, really well was take a client that was signing up for a one-time service and turn them into a lifelong customer. And there was just so many different things that he did, from providing a high quality service, really pulling on really high quality people to represent your company, training them properly. And then, once that first sunny day hits every spring, that guy jumps on the phone and A through Z. I mean, we're calling everyone, and it's time to get your windows clean, And it slows down a little bit in July and August. And believe it or not, they start putting Christmas lights up in August. And today he installs over 4,000 residential jobs putting up lights, and that's got to be done basically from September to December 10th. And it's just unbelievable what that guy can do. So he also during that time invented and patented a Christmas light clip that he now sells to hundreds of other Christmas light companies as well across the nation. So just I'm on this podcast, but he probably should be. He's almost more respectable entrepreneur than I am.
Yeah, that's it. That's interesting. Yeah, especially as we're one of those Griswoldian households in our neighborhood that you're taxing your electrical system every time. Well, LEDs have changed that.
Yeah, so for sure.
That's a lot nicer now, because it literally at my house at Christmas time, the electricity bill would double for that period and then go back down. But that's cool, because there is in those kind of things. I mean, when you're talking about doing that for windows, lights, anything like this, it's much different than you or I doing it on our home, because now we're talking about scheduling around other people's schedules, making sure that everything, materials are there for my people to do the job correctly. As you said, my people are trained. Because you think about cleaning a window, and believe it or not, you probably had to train people on the proper way to clean a window.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, it's when you're going to clean a window professionally, and these are very, very particular people. I mean, so I think, well, the best thing I ever learned from my brother is we're going to find our most particular customer, and we're going to train every single one of our people to that standard so that most particular customer is satisfied. And that's going to be our standard across the board. And that helps so much, because when you're running a service-based business, especially if you're dealing with callbacks, having to go back and fix something, and some of those callbacks would be like, hey, there's a smudge on the window, and the guy would walk up with a towel and fix a smudge and be like, okay, yep, that's better, thanks. And I mean, people, if they're paying for something, it has to be perfect. It's not like you're asking your husband to do it or the wife to do it on a Saturday morning. I mean, it has to be perfect, it has to be efficient, it has to be profitable.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Finding the most picky or critical customer and satisfying them, because then everybody's happy.
For sure, 100%.
And if you build your processes around that and training around that, you can naturally have a high level of satisfaction in the field.
Yes,
so
most definitely.
So as you guys were scaling that, you scaled that you said from doubled the amount of crews there.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of the things that you ran into? Because you already had a multiple crews, so you had some things in place, but when you doubled, what were some of the things that popped its ugly head that you didn't see before?
Yeah, I think, getting people to understand your systems and your processes as quickly as possible is always a challenge. And one thing that we didn't do there that I now do is really document and get everything written down, right? So and sometimes it's easy as jumping on and recording a video and, hey, here's the best way to do this on your first day of work. Here's what I expect you to wear. Here's what I expect you to show up, and you set that up to automatically send out. Just these little repeatable tasks that I just don't want to answer the same question twice. But during that time, it was getting vehicles affordably. He would buy a lot of vehicles for like a pickup truck, pretty old, for $4 or $5 grand. And hey, can we get 2 years out of this thing? And then getting the materials in time, because all of a sudden you get your busy season and you've got 8, 9 trucks sitting here now. Also, we need 12, and we got to get all these sets of ladders and all these things. And it's the overdrive of you're answering the phones, trying to get these guys rocking and rolling, and then getting the system in place to duplicate everything as quickly as possible. So that was one of the best things, was just how do we duplicate a truck? How do we get these guys trained in? And with that, I think the best thing that came of it is crew leaders. You have a crew leader and then a helper, and the helper eventually is ready to be a crew lead, and you just got to work with those guys, giving them the confidence so that they're ready to go when it comes time.
Yeah. And listening to you talk now, it brings back a memory from, I was talking with my brother who's got a electrical contracting and automation business, and they work in the oil fields. Mm-hmm. And he was telling me about, when they started and then they started really growing, they started buying the same truck, putting the same toolboxes, the same tools in it, and then developing the checklist of tools that went into every truck, and the processes to make sure that every driver knew that, they were responsible for them and could do inventory on the trucks and everything else. And then these things add. And then when you guys are at a certain point, and I've seen this in roofing companies and in this electrical company, you probably almost had to have runners from time to time that would, if it ran out or some extraneous situation, you got to have somebody there quick, because otherwise you're more time on site.
Yeah, 100%. And because guys, forget things. The worst is the guys pirating equipment from each other's vehicles. That's probably the absolute worst. But all of a sudden you've got someone, a CSR, who's supposed to be answering the phones, and hey, we need a garden hose at this job so we can pressure wash it or whatever it is. And you're just putting out little mini fires so that, because we don't want to come back to this job. I've got 2 guys there. They need to be making money. We're never going to get the day back, so we got to equip them to do the job. And what do? You yell at the guys for, why didn't you see if you had a hose with your pressure washer when you knew you're going to be doing that? And so just continuously encouraging, motivating, and training, taking any opportunity to say, hey, in the future, how can we prevent this so I don't have to drive 30 minutes across Minneapolis to get you that piece of equipment?
Yeah. Yep. So when it comes to people, what did you learn there that you didn't expect that you would learn?
I think the biggest thing was, if you really give people a lot of the time and attention, you get to know people, they're going to give you all their best. And that takes, like, sometimes it's as simple as just having coming in the morning, and you, as a general manager, you got to be there, be one of the first ones there. And I didn't smoke, but, just standing out there with those guys while they're all having their cigarette and listen to, hey, what was the weekend all about? Like, what'd you guys do? And you're laughing, you're standing there, you're laughing, and they realize that you're a human too, and just taking that time to get to know people. And I think one thing, the biggest thing is that as you get to know people, if you ask for their best and you convince them that they do have it in you, and you hold them to that standard, and you then hold everyone to the standard, including yourself, people become the average of the 5 people that they spend time with. So if you got one outlier in here, either, hey, you're going to be gone because you don't fit in with the rest of us, or you've got to step up the game. And you talk to the guys. And I think one of my favorite lines is, hey, on your best day, I'd take 1,000,000 of you, but on your worst day, we'd be out of business. And so we're only as good as you on your worst day. I need your worst to be a lot better. Like, I need your best effort on Monday morning. You can't come in here feeling crappy from a long weekend or things like that. Like, drink water, get 8 hours of sleep, exercise, all these little things. And sometimes you got to babysit a little bit like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think you explained it well, but leading people takes time, and,
yes.
and leading helps people see with their true potential. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're doing there. That's super cool. So then you're working with him, and you decide to start your own company. So what was it that you said, hey, this is cool, bro, but I'm going to go out and do my own thing? What was it that gave you that, I want to start something else, and this is what I want to do?
Yeah, the original conversation, and we both say it's a little different, but the original conversation is actually he had bought into a property management company. And for the very high end, like, we're talking NFL players, NBA players, high end, the 1% of the 1%, they're completely managing your summer home for you, or your cabin here, or whatever it is. Yeah. And you want new speakers put in, you got it. Say no more. I'll get Geek Squad out here. I'll get 3 bids. I'll have it all done. By the time you come here next, there's going to be a step-by-step directions on how to connect your phone, and you're good to go. And the frustration for them is that they only had 2 customers, which is not sustainable. They were charging like $1,500 a month. And so my recommendation was, hey, based on the conversations we've had with all these customers of wanting people to take care of their homes, why don't you lower your offering to something that you're normal, like a business owner, C-level executive, or a dual income home, these things that your everyday wealthier people are hiring service people can afford. And they didn't laugh me out of the room, but they're like, no, that's not who we are. That's not what we're going to do. That would never work. And so when people tell me that I can't do something or it can't work, it's kind of a little bit of a trigger for me. So I'm like, well, I'm going to do some research, and looked all over. I couldn't find another company that did it. There was, not in Minnesota, there was like one other company that was doing handyman and routine maintenance. So they visit once a month, come in, do all your routine maintenance, and like offer like an hour of handyman. So came back the next month, I'm like, hey guys, I've got something for you. These guys are actually offering franchises. So I know it's very expensive to do that, and they must be doing well. We should add this to your current service offering. You have thousands and thousands of high-end routine of clients in your list. And they're like, no, it's a dumb idea. It won't work. So this starts this research thing. I get home, and I'm staying up till 11 midnight, just researching away, seeing. And I actually became a certified home inspector online during that time, so I just could learn as much as possible about homes. And through all of that, I decided, I'm like, hey, it's time to. I had filed like an LLC for my rental. I was renting the base of my house. I had filed an LLC to board and train these dogs. I'm like, it's time to file another LLC here. And I decided to start Kura Home. And like I mentioned earlier, it was just the right time because I was young. I had this income coming in of, being able to, as a 26-year-old guy, you don't need to be making a ton of money to get by. Worst case scenario, you go out and buy some Roma pizzas and ramen noodles, and you're doing just fine. So it was just an opportunity of if not now, when am I going to do it? And it seemed great. So I left on really awesome terms, and I'm still, my brother, he's one of my best friends. We refer a lot of business back and forth. So it was really, I think giving that 4-month notice was good for him, even though he didn't replace me for quite a while, but I think it let it set in for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. It let you help with the transition for quite a while. Yep. So you got to be a certified home inspector. So what did you learn with that? Because I think that's an interesting twist in you coming into the home maintenance business, coming at it from the standpoint of inspecting homes, you're going to see what's been done and what hasn't done. So what did you learn in that process, the home inspection?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I learned was like what does what in the house, right? Like what is this machine in, because today we maintain like $12 million estates, but then we also maintain the $150,000 townhome and everything in between. And for me, what I really learned is that, hey, when I walk in and here's this out of the world, system and because some of these houses, they have 3-4 utility rooms, and what is this thing? And so basically it allowed me to walk into a home, provide an estimate, and be the educated, knowledgeable person in the room. For a majority of the people that call us out for an estimate are women, and so they don't want it. They don't care what's in the utility room, right? They never go in there unless an alarm goes off or the kids are coughing and it's time to change the furnace filter. So for me, walking in, I knew the difference, what's going on in this townhome, what's going on in the $12 million estate, and everything in between, and how can I be the educated professional. And for me, there was no other way to do that. That I think it was like a $600 or $700 course, and that allowed me to take my time online in the evenings and go through that course and learn all that stuff. And I didn't want to be a handyman, even though growing up on a farm, we offered handyman stuff in the beginning, but that wasn't going to be a scalable thing at that time.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that in a moment, because you said you tried the handyman, doing handyman services, and that was kind of challenging. But one of the things that you've done that I think is really interesting is not only have you expanded your business into multiple crews in the area, so you've got crews running around doing what they need to do, but you've expanded geographically too, and we'll talk about in a moment. And you're franchising now. So what were some of the things that you saw? Because you'd worked with your brother's companies, you guys expanded crews there, so you kind of had the baseline for doing that. What were some of the things that you learned when you moved geographically and expanded geographically?
I think the biggest thing that I learned is that managing people 1,000 miles away is very, very difficult. On the phone or on Zoom, there's a lot of yes people. Yeah, you bet, boss, or I got your back. I can do this for you. And like a day or two goes by, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, I thought you were going to go have those, 2 networking meetings per day and this and that. And they're like, well, the dog got sick and then this and that. And it's like, well, man, we only ended up doing like 2 or 3 jobs last week in your area. And when I'm here and I do these same meetings and I follow this template to have these meetings with these professionals, I'm scheduling 1 or 2 jobs after that meeting with their connections or referrals. So it's very, very difficult to, what's not in front of you is really hard. And for me, I'm not the best at managing people because I've got so many moving parts, all this stuff. And so that's a weakness on me is managing people that, you hire someone, you feel like you can 100% trust them. And people need to be consistently motivated, consistently encouraged. And at 1,000 miles away, it's pretty tricky to do that. Even when we got down to we'd have like a morning check-in, all of us on Zoom. And even then, it was still quite challenging.
Yeah. That is one of the things that I hear from just about every business owner as you're trying to scale. It's keeping people so they absolutely understand if they're, and for lack of better terms, in the green or in the red. In the green, yellow, red, right? So am I doing what I need to do? Things going like I want? Do I got to improve a little bit, or am I just not doing it?
Right.
And the systems that you use, I got to imagine that you had to develop some, rather than me, Damon, just saying, yeah, that was, went on, had a couple great meetings, blah, 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 blah. You probably had to develop systems that said, okay, your backlog or something like that. Is that, did you really have to up your game with those kind of things as you move geographically?
Yeah, going back to, I love that you brought up like the green, the yellow, the red stuff, because that's exactly what we were doing. We are in Minneapolis and Denver. We had a few other locations, and what we ended up doing was having these guys fill in an Excel file that you would do the amount of work that you did that day and the amount of time that you clocked in. If you had a networking meetings, we'd count that. It was kind of like a score, and the Excel file would turn red or green. Either you had a good day or you had a bad day. Well, now you've got your peers holding you accountable, and that helped. We did these little things that like, okay, this is working for a little bit, and then also the guys would stop entering it in or whatever. And so it would turn red or green on if you had an acceptable day or not. And when you get the peer pressure in there, similar to working with those guys at Russell Williams, my brother's company, you get that peer pressure of, hey, this is the standard that we're holding ourselves to. That worked really, really well, better than anything that I could do. But yeah, for people to know I'm at an acceptable level here, I did great. It's so rewarding to go home and, when you're eating dinner with your family, whatever, like, yeah, I had a good day at work today. I did everything I was supposed to do. It was awesome. Rather than like, I think I'm doing good. I think I love the green light, red light stuff. As simple as it seems, it's nice to know you're doing a good job.
Yeah. And I think it naturally, as you said, it helps everyone do better because you go home feeling good. First of all, what do I have to do? If I have to do 100 jumping jacks and I get 100 in and I go home, hey, I know I did what I was supposed to do and everything's cool. And like you said, you can enjoy yourself knowing that you did what you were supposed to do and everything's happy. I can't tell you how many businesses that we talk to that is not done. Those simple measures aren't in place for the vast majority of the companies or the majority of the people in the companies, because if you've got someone that say, washing the windows, right? You've got someone that's running a truck, going out and washing windows. What's success for me today mean? Getting 2 jobs done? Cool. If I got 2 jobs done with no callbacks, that's I know that same thing.
Right.
When it's somebody in the room that's measuring the checkbook or some other crazy thing, it doesn't do the rest of the people that actually have to make the money and make the business work. Do them any good. And when they question or don't know, or the expectations have not been set, people just naturally just wander to it's not nearly as effective.
Right.
So as you've grown your business, because I imagine you didn't start with measures in place and things like that, but were you able to see improvements in performance over time as you've added more of these measures and started to really understand the inner workings of your business and communicate that better to people?
Yeah, most definitely. I think one of the most rewarding things that we've done, one of our largest challenges is people don't Google routine home maintenance. That's just something that's like 13 people in this entire 3 million of Minneapolis to search it a month. You're right. It's no one. So with that, you're trying to find out, well, people do search for air duct cleaning. So that's today 50% of our business. So now you're in this home, right? And so the challenge is, how do you get your technicians to tell a homeowner that, hey, I noticed your bathroom fan is super dirty. I can clean it for you today for $30. By the way, we do 31 other things if you want, right? And we tried all these things and, it'd be like, hey, I'll give you 15% commission. I'll give you 25%, right? And finally, what it ended up is I had a guy come in and he's like, I want to make more money. I'm like, me too. We're on the same page. And he's like, and I said, hey, I tell you what, I printed out my P&L for him. And I said, here's what we got going on, right? Top line, everything in between, bottom line. The more that comes in, the more that can come out. I'm building this business. I always building to sell. Maybe it'll be when I'm 100. Maybe it'll be, in a few weeks, who knows? But always building this thing to sell. And so I don't take a lot out of it. If you want more, the only thing I need from you is just to get some more in the top, and that can trickle down to your payroll, which is right here. And he agreed. He's like, it's just not worth it for me at like 25% commission. I go, what's your number? He goes, well, if I got half of what I upsold, I would upsell way more. And this is one of my guys, like seasoned guys. He had been there for quite a while. And I'm like, I tell you what, well, I'll do it for a month with you and we'll see how it goes. And if it goes well for you, I'll roll it out for everyone. And this guy who had never upsold this thing, started upselling. And he would text me every day, upsold this, upsold that, upsold that. And he's making a couple extra $100 a week on his paycheck. So then we rolled it out to everyone, but then it faded out. Like I say this all the time. If every idea that we've ever had was implemented and stuck forever, we'd be like $1 billion company. But here we are, right? And so the best thing that we did is we have an internal Facebook page for all of our employees. It's just a private group of all of us. And in order to get paid your 50% commission, you have to write it in that Facebook page. So guys are getting notifications throughout the day that Joe upsold this, Jim upsold that, right? And so now it's bringing back this peer pressure thing. And these guys keep on getting reminded that, wow, hey, Antonio's he upsold $600 this week. The guy's getting $300 extra. Like that's nuts. You're getting a $7.50 raise this week if you work 40 hours. because
Yeah.
you upsold stuff, and that started getting us more routine maintenance clients. And it was just a huge win-win all the way around. I realistically lose money on the 50% commission thing. So I'm still paying them hourly plus giving them commission.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it doesn't matter because they're making more money, and that's been a huge win for us.
Yeah. Well, and it's cool too, because you figured out a way to properly get people to without to do what helps the company and helps themselves, and you added without probably realizing adding the gamification, which people talk so much about this stuff in gamification and how it works, because while I myself, Damon, might not upsell a lot, when everybody's combined, that thing dings a lot, and we see a lot of upsells. So it makes it seem like everybody's doing it all the time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, this is happening every hour throughout the day, and I'm the only one not doing it. I need to start doing it. I got to fit in with everyone. Yeah, it's worked out really well for us.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So when you are trying to recruit and retain, well, first of all, recruiting talent, what do you think is your biggest challenge when you're trying to recruit talent?
I think the amount of time it takes to weed through the amount of just like mundane people that like select 30 jobs and hit apply, and you gotta try to get them in, and it takes all stuff. So creating systems and processes around that to make it so that whatever. And so what we've done, that's one of the largest challenges, right? Like, are you even a human being? Or are you a robot? So one thing that we've done is you just make it so that there's a few more action steps needed from the individual for them to prove that, hey, I actually want a job. And so at times that works really well because you have a ton of people applying for jobs, and at other times it doesn't work so well when unemployment is too low. But just doing something simple as replying all to all these people, that takes a few seconds, and they're not all CC'd but BCC'd or whatever, and say, hey, really interested in having you come in for an interview. Before that, would you be willing to fill out this personality test for me? It takes about 5 minutes, and it does. It's like a very simple like DISC assessment, and they send that in. And realistically, for our technicians, we need all kinds of kind. We need the introverted guy, we need the super chatty guy, because the introverted guy is off working in the utility room getting the job done. The extroverted guy is talking to the homeowner. So we need all types, and they fill that in. If that's submitted, okay, now we know you're actually generally interested. Now step 2 is, can I schedule a phone interview, and I'll have like an assistant do that or something like that. And, now, okay, we get you on the phone, and you know that 3 p.m. actually means 3 p.m. And that's just basically a very fast screen question, 3 to 5 minutes of, okay, we'll get you to come in. And because of that, the amount of people that come in for an interview, our hire rate it's so high. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's got to be 75 to 80% of people get hired that come in, because we've screened them out just through these very simple, a few minutes of things getting that done. And the only time that really hasn't worked with us is October of 2021. We were trying to hire a few people, and no one was applying for anything. It didn't matter what the unemployment was so low, and it was really challenging. But this spring, each spring and fall, we get extra busy. Our company grows like if you're walking up stairs, on an Eiffel Tower. So you go up a few steps, then you level out, you go up a few steps, and those steps seem to happen in the spring and fall. So we hired 6 extra guys, and it took me like 4 days. It's so fast, and it barely took me any time by creating those systems and processes.
Yeah. Now, what kind of, if you don't mind sharing, if you don't want to, that's cool. Is your turnover high, or is it not real high, or is it?
It's one or the other. So I've got guys that have been with me for, it seems like, since day one, and they're absolutely awesome, and they've been around forever. And then I have the exact extreme opposite, where guys come in and they're like, they're here for the summer, or they're just job hoppers, and they're here for like 3-4 months. So I would say we're above company, or above like industry average of like service technicians. I don't know exactly what my average is, but I know we're above average because of our routine maintenance clients. We have over 600 in Minneapolis, and we're servicing them every 3 months. We do provide consistent work, and it's not like, hey, it rained, now all of a sudden we all have to go out and work, or the sunshine. It's not so seasonal that my guys can get very consistent 40-hour weeks, and that has allowed us to keep guys on longer.
Yeah. Because I know that when you talk about the things that you're doing, and you talk about hiring easily, that shows something about your company. And when you talk about retention, that shows something about your company.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to ask, how much have you had to push yourself as you've grown this company to continue being a better leader?
It's a continuous nonstop. I mean, this year, my one and only goal is I'm gonna consume 52 books between reading and audiobook. And I mean, and these aren't like, this isn't a nonfiction, whatever. I mean, these are business books. This is Built to Sell. This is Start With Why. I mean, 10X. All these books, a lot of them are re-listens from, I listened to maybe 3 years ago when I was a completely different business person. But it's a nonstop, constant push, because as soon as I get complacent or something, I mean, everything mud flows down, or you know the phrase. So everything flows downhill, right? And so if I get complacent and I'm like, hey, I'm super happy, let's just collect the profits on this year or this quarter. Well, guess what? And then the general manager gets complacent, and then his managers and the technicians and everyone all of a sudden everyone's like, what's the point? Why would I follow up with this person again when the schedule's full enough? We're booked out a few days. So yeah, I push myself. Some would ask why, but yeah, I mean, I'm signed up to complete another Ironman triathlon next summer. I'm rocking and rolling. It's a continuous, push the limits. How much can you do in a day? But the one thing that I never waver from is I don't miss dinner with my family. That's one thing that I don't fall away from, and because it's faith, family, right? That's got to be before work for sure.
Well, the foundation has to be there. Right.
100%. Yeah.
You have to have the foundation to be there, because you won't, I mean, you can be a hollow person if one part of your life is working and the others aren't. So
for sure.
That's good. But it's great to hear that you're doing that, because I know that a lot of people think that once they've become a business owner that, now I am.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not really. It's like a friend of mine, Thane Isaac, says, if we don't think we're always becoming better, says we're probably dying.
Yeah.
Because they're not doing it. And it's cool to hear you say that, hey, I'm reading 52 books this year. I'm doing these kind of things and keeping, and especially too, exercise, because it is. So let's just talk about that a little bit. How much do you think the fact that, because I'm assuming if you're not just getting up off the couch and doing a triathlon, so you're staying in somewhat of shape. How much do you think that in conjunction with the leadership work and the other things you're doing, keeping your body in shape, is helping you?
I would say it's huge. It's extremely crucial, because now I think I believe I've had one sick day in 6 years where I wasn't able to go into work. Right. And doing these little things of getting 8 hours of sleep, drinking water, that's a complicated house plant, right? And eating healthy, which my wife has a huge part to do with. But yeah, getting to the gym, my alarm goes off at 4:58 every morning, and I'm getting up. I'm going, and I have people that meet me there. If I don't make it there, I get harassed all day long via text about how I'm this and I'm that, and I'm a huge wimp, and I don't want to deal with that, so I go. Yeah. And it's extremely crucial. I think the best part about it is you get up early, you get it done. And that's the hardest part of your day. Now you can deal with maybe a tough conversation with an employee, or, hopefully not every day, but if a customer is upset, it's like, I already kind of dealt with the crappy part of my day of getting up out of bed early or doing this. And this now is just easier. So I think it's so important to have a fresh start. And if you wake up at, if you're working from home and your alarm goes off at 7:55 and you roll out and you start working away at 8 a.m., it's like, where's the me time? Where's the time to look out the window and be appreciative of the sunset? Things like that. I think get yourself right, and now you can give your best to the company, whatever time of day that is.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad we got to cover that a little bit, because you're right. It does. You can get that out, and you get your blood pumping too in the morning, rather than, like you said, wake up and go, sit in front of a computer or go to work. You really get your blood pumping, and you get to, and you're talking with people, and you're letting your body and your mind wake up. It's so much more productive days after that.
For sure.
It was only recently in the last few years I realized how important that is and how much it really helps. I grew up in managing companies. When I grew up, I mean, you knew you probably were going to have a heart attack. You probably were going to go through, unfortunately, you're probably going to be married more than once.
Sure.
You know, all these kind of things. And just because you're going to work hard, you're not going to eat right. You're, that's
Right.
just what you're going to do.
Right.
And the wonderful thing I see, and from talking to you and talking to other younger entrepreneurs, is you're taking the time to keep developing your skills, keep yourself healthy, spend time with your family, because the whole you is what really gets you through a successful journey. And it's cool to hear that. It's cool to hear that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. So how many Ironmans have you done?
I've only done one full Ironman,
Yeah.
and I think like 28 triathlons and a couple marathons. But so this is going to be number 2
Only.
Yeah. Well, I was a little bit
Only.
younger then, but now it's time to get back into it. And so I'm really excited. And I was actually with a coworker that we were talking, and it's like, hey, we got to do something here. Let's push ourselves outside of the comfort zone. And so I signed up, and I sent him the screenshot, and it's your turn. And he sent me the same screenshot a few minutes later. So super excited to do number 2. I'm not going to try to beat a world record. This last time I was a little bit younger and quite a bit more free time on my hands. I went all out, and so this one's going to be more of I'm going to be very content crossing the finish line in 12, 13 hours. So very excited to do number 2.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And the camaraderie and the other things that you learn about yourself just within that training is invaluable as well.
Yeah, you meet some really awesome people. I was on the side story, but I was on a bike ride when I was training for my last one. It was a 100-mile ride locally here in Minnesota, and I was biking next to a guy. He was like, he seemed 55, 60, and he was kicking my butt. And this is like every mile, like 30, 40. And this guy, he's pulling us like he's the front, because on bikes you can really get in that channel really nice. So finally, I think at mile like 85 or 90, enough people had dropped off, and I'm too stubborn. I'm working my tail off, and ended up I'm chatting with him a little bit. And about a week later, I'm sitting next to a buddy at school, and I'm telling him, I was on a bike ride, and I'm like, you guys wouldn't believe this guy. He twice triple my age. He just kicked my butt. And he goes, was his name Greg? And I'm like, yeah, his name was Greg. He goes, yeah, that's my dad's friend. He was telling me that he knew a guy from Bethel. That was Greg LeMond. And I'm like, what? I didn't even know it. So I was biking with Greg LeMond for this 100-mile bike ride. I had no idea. And he's still out there. He's still kicking butt. He's legit. And that was a really cool thing. I don't know if he still has it, but he has a few houses here in Minnesota. And you get surrounded by people that are doing pretty cool things. And I'm like, man, I wish I would ask a few more questions. We were just having a great conversation the entire bike ride, but should I ask, like, what's your last name? Because you just say, what's your name? Oh, Greg. I'm like, okay, whatever,
Yeah.
So, you meet pretty cool people
incredible.
out there. Yeah, that's my claim to fame. If my celebrity that I've spent some time with.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So as you look forward to the future, now we were talking about this before. You're in the Minneapolis area, you're in Denver area, and you had some of your own offices you had opened, but then you decided to pivot and said, and really think that franchising is going to work better for us. Mm-hmm. What do you think that franchising will allow you to do that you're really excited about?
Yeah. So, I think what's really important for entrepreneurs to do is to take some time to self-reflect, right? And like you said, Dan, we had started a few locations, and managing these guys from 1,000 miles away is not my strong suit. We were not super great at it. And so ultimately there's 195 plus locations in the United States that have 1 million plus people in their metropolitan areas. And I think that Kura Home would do really well in all of them. And so you've set this goal to be in them. And so how do you get there? And around the same time as we're trying to figure out those challenges, we were getting people calling us from regions all over the US saying, hey, I love your routine maintenance subscription that you have going on. Can I come spend a week with you? I'll pay you like $5,000. It's like, I don't really want a sidekick for a week or whatever. You're trying to figure this out. It's like, well, maybe I'll start there. Well, then eventually it started happening very routinely. And so we decided that having someone who's invested in this and they want us to see it succeed as much as you do would be the best route. And so I asked my brother had franchised his business. He never sold one, but I called him. I said, can I use your FDD? I'm going to change all the words. I'm going to call a lawyer. And they said, if you want to draft one, we'll proof it. So I was able to get that very affordable. We already have a 600-page operations manual. I mean, everything is in that thing. And so we decided to start franchising. It's a game of patience because it's a very long sales process, but we've got a gentleman who's working on the financing right now, and we should be in the west side of Florida here in no time. So I think that the franchise will be the best route, and if not, we'll reevaluate and go from there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I think it too, like you said, it builds around your strengths, and your strengths are, providing good systems and a way to run your business, and then you let others manage it in the other locations,
For sure,
and do it that way. Because I do really like the way that you've taken and narrowed this, and we talked about this a little bit before we got on, because there's a lot of people that when they talk about home services, they go, "Whoa, what do you need done?"
Right. Yep.
Talk a little bit about your discovery path from going to, well, what do you need done, to where you're at today, where you have a defined set of services that you do.
Yeah. In the beginning, when it was me and my pickup truck out of the garage, I would do anything for anyone that would pay me $1, right? Like $50, great. Love it. Right now I can eat tonight. And then you get employees and you realize that they can't do those same things. And you, in order to scale, you need to be able to say, yes, my 18 technicians can do this and I can send any one of them. So how do you get these things training? So I think two important phrases is that you can't be everything to everyone, and realistically you don't want to be. And secondly is that craftsmanship is not scalable, and it's very challenging. So we started doing handyman and we got rid of it. And the best thing that we ever did is we created a list of things that were factual. It's black and white. Did you change the furnace filter? Yes or no? Did you drain the water heater sediment? Yes or no? All these things of, did you put 5 bags of softener salt in or not? Right? It's very, very factual. And this customer checked the box, and then you need to check the box for the quarter that you were there. You take a photo of it on a nice little client form that we have for you. And you send the client form, and it's repeatable. I can send any technician to any one of our 600 clients' homes, and they know exactly what they're doing. Well, in the meantime, so now that sounds really smart and that sounds really nice. But in the meantime, people aren't Googling routine home maintenance. So we get this idea, well, everyone's Googling handyman. We should add that. So this is my fail story. We started in February of 2021, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to hire one handyman, and I'm just going to send out a casual newsletter to our 1,200 contacts on there, or 12,000, excuse me. And we were like instantly booked out a month. It was like, boom, like, okay, this guy's super busy. Well, he's like, well, my neighbor is a handyman too, and he'd come work for us. Well, that turned into like 11 handyman out there working. But the problem is we weren't making money on it. Like from February to November 2021, we did $424,000 worth of handyman work. Like, it was fast, explosive growth. The problem is that our payroll and material cost was $408,000. So everything in between, that's not including like gas, vehicles, tools. You can imagine the amount of money that like fell out of this place and right out the bottom. And so it was extremely challenging. Ultimately, at the end of it, we decided, hey, that's when we really get into this green light, red light thing. Do you have a profitable day? Did you do everything? It was extremely challenging. And we were getting customers that were upset. Like, we barely have an upset customer. So now you're dealing with people like, hey, we have a hole that in our sheetrock and it doesn't look absolutely perfect. It's like, oh no, I got to find my sheetrock guy and get him there. And you're like juggling all this stuff, and it's not profitable. I think there's a reason why there's a ton of one-man handyman companies, because he answers the phone, he goes to go out and bid, and then he goes out and fixes it. Well, we'd have a client care coordinator. We were really good at answering phones and emails. That was great. So people love that. And then we go have a sales manager go out, he'd do the bid. And we got to the point where he'd video what we were going to do. So, he'd say, hey, right here, we're going to fix this hole in this drywall, and we're going to cut this out. And we have Susie's approval to do that for $350. Susie, is that correct? Yep. We get there like a week later, and she's like, oh, no, that's not. We were going to take all this out and that room. And it's like, Susie, that's a $4,000 project, right? And now you've got, and the guys, like, a lot of times we get talked into be like, no, we were going to do that for $350. And it was so challenging. And it was really hard to manage. These guys were like cowboys, but at the end of the day, several of them found different jobs. I actually helped a few of them start their own company, and they're off doing great. And awesome. And it was good to just be done with that.
But I think you really hit on it. Craftsmanship is not scalable, and it's very hard in that very diverse service model to do a very high quality job consistently. And what you've done by taking your services and saying, these are the most needed routine services in a home, and going, okay, which one of these do you want, or do you want them all? And just go, boom. Then you go,
right.
Hey, like you said, I replaced the furnace filter. Yes. Here's the new one. Here's the old one.
Right.
That simple kind of stuff. And it's the stuff that we need to have done, because as you said, there's so many systems in a home anymore. When you look at it, I mean, just go back 20 years. It's just it's so different. Everything
100%.
from the air handling systems to the different air purifiers that people use, the water purifiers, and like you said, where you're at the water softeners that you need to keep going, and wow, so much stuff.
It's very complex, and Damon, you hit it right on the head too. Of houses are becoming more complex, and a lot of people that we take care of their homes for them, they didn't grow up in the home; they grew up in a daycare, and then they were in school, and so they didn't even grow up like watching someone maintain this stuff. And then all of a sudden, like, you know, to your point, like all these things they're becoming code to have this, you know, air exchanger or all these things in place, and people are like, I don't even know what that is. Like we'll walk through and show you, hey, here's everything we can maintain for you based on our checklist. What items do you want? And we'll go through and they're like, yeah, I don't even know what that is, so you should probably maintain that. And I don't know what that is, so you should maintain that. And that's what people love about it. It's just, we'll maintain this really nice list. But also back to your point, David, the best part about having that list of the 32 services is that sheetrock repair is not on that list. So when homeowners say, hey, while you're here, can you do this for me? And the guy's gonna be like, you know, unfortunately, these are the services that I can professionally offer for you that we're insured for. And we try to do one thing extra for every single customer. And sometimes it's shoveling snow off the sidewalk or sweep the utility room or whatever, you know, change a light bulb, whatever it is. But it's really nice to have that in the list of, here's everything that I know all my technicians that are trained in. We can professionally offer that service.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I tell you what, Daniel, it's been awesome talking to you. And the way that you've taken a home services business and structured it to be scalable, structured it to be around critical services that people have in their home, that critical maintenance, routine maintenance things, and then made it easy for them to keep doing it, and then made it easy for your people to do a good job doing it, I think is really something.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's been a fun journey so far.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you for being here today. If someone wants to get a hold of you and talk to you about Kura Home, if they're in the Minneapolis or Denver area and they need home maintenance services, what's the best place to find you?
Yeah. Find us online, kurahome.com. It's Kura. We post a ton of really valuable educational content on social media. If you want to get in touch with me personally, I manage my own LinkedIn profile, and you can just search Daniel Felt on there and you can find me. And we love connecting with people across the country.
Awesome. So, and if people want to talk to you about a franchise, I'm assuming the same thing, connect with Daniel on LinkedIn.
Yep. That'd be great.
Go to the website. Okay, good. Well, thanks so much for being here, Daniel. It's really been awesome talking about how scaling a home services business, because I think you've taken a really good long-term approach to doing this.
Thank you. Greatly appreciated.
You bet. Well, thanks everyone for listening today. And since it's Thursday, we'll be back again next week with another guest on the Faces of Business. Thanks so much for being here, and we'll be back later.